Hi, and welcome back to the Tools for Perseverance. I'm Dr. Jessica Wright, and I'm so excited to be talking about sleep hygiene today. We seem to have a helicopter. Helicopters don't help you sleep. But I am so excited to talk about this. The CDC is recommending that all of us be practicing, some pretty stringent sleep hygiene to help us get through this, because sleep is something that has such a magnificent benefit on your mental and your physical health. It can't be overestimated or over discussed how much sleep is helpful to us, and getting the right amount of sleep is going to be incredibly useful. Now, what is the right amount of sleep? I did some interesting research on this, and the short answer is that it varies, but generally people around the world get less sleep than they need, specifically in countries that have a high emphasis on work. So in Japan, in the United States, and Germany, we have a high emphasis on the importance of production and being productive. With the interruption of our regular routine, our regular lives, a lot of us are stepping back, taking care of ourselves in this important time, not only to keep ourselves healthy, to avoid getting the virus, but also to keep ourselves mentally healthy. And so sleep is one of those things that is very valuable. The idea of 8 hours a night is a general rule, but a lot of adults actually need 9 in order to be their most the most functional. So 9 is a really good hour amount for some people, and others need 7, and that's why they've got this average of 8 hours a night. Teenagers and babies need more. Anyone who's parented either of those age groups will know that you need more sleep, both when you're a teenager and when you are an infant. And that children need significant sleep. So they need time before they go to sleep to calm down, for their minds to calm down. And then they need, somewhere, depending on the age of the child, between 10 and 12 hours of sleep a night. So that was some interesting research. So let's talk about what we know works. There's a lot out there, and I'll mention a few things about what we shouldn't do. But what I find really helpful is to know, here are some really specific tools that I can use, things that I can do that I know are going to work. So let's talk through those. So here are some things that we know work well. During the day, not close to when you go to bed, but just during the day, getting exercise, movement, right? Doing yoga, getting out in the park for a walk if you're able, getting, any kind of movement at all is really very, very, very valuable during the day, but not 3 hours or more before you actually go to bed. So far before you go to bed, getting that movement is going to be really helpful. Getting exposure to bright light during the afternoon hours is actually incredibly important to help set your clock. So you have a section of your brain devoted to keeping track of time. And, anyone who's lived in a very northern or very southern part of our earth has experienced the idea of what happens when the sun never sets or the sun is always set, right? So having summertime in Alaska, where the sun doesn't ever go down and it's always bright, they have tools that they use to help them. So they have blackout curtains and other features that help simulate night. And then in the winter, they have lights that you can actually purchase that simulate sunlight to help your brain get into that rhythm. And that rhythm is incredibly important, incredibly valuable. So it's also suggested that you write down problems that you're working on. So you have a space, a journal, a note, an application on your phone, somewhere that you regularly write down some of the problems that you're working over. The idea is to have a place that you're putting them to get them physically out of your head. And then when it comes time to being just before bed, we know there are a few things that work that help people to sleep better. And one is to change into pajamas. Now, if you're working from home and happen to be wearing pajamas all day, you're going to want to, forgive me, I forgot to turn off my messages. Um, uh, you're going to want to get in the habit of making sure that you change into other pajamas, other clothes, and getting into that routine of putting new clothes on before bed. So different clothes before bed. Okay, talking about routine, one of the most important things of all the literature that I read, the most important thing was having consistency in the times that you wake up and the times that you go to sleep. And not varying that even on the weekends, but having consistency of that, rough consistency. So within an hour or two, either way. So not going to bed more than an hour or two later than what you normally do, and not waking up more than an hour or two later than what you normally do, can make all the difference in the world when it comes to your being able to go to sleep at night. In the bed, just before bed, low lighting, incredibly important, not bright lights. Reading from paper, there's a lot of content about how the light from our screens is actually a trigger. It's sort of like that afternoon light that is going to trigger us to wake up. And so reading either from there's a bunch of different tablets, Kindle, Remarkable, a bunch of different tablets that don't have light, they're not screens. So either reading from a digital device that's not a screen, or reading from paper is going to be really very, very valuable. And one of our music therapists actually recommended a relaxation, a sleeping technique developed by the military to help soldiers go to sleep in the midst of combat, right? Because they need soldiers to be able to sleep so that they can do their jobs well. And so one of the things that they trained their soldiers to do, which worked very, very effectively, was this progressive muscle relaxation technique, where you essentially start at your head, with your head and your face, and you squeeze your muscles tight and then release, right? You squeeze them really, really tight and then release. And you progressively move through your body. So from your head to your neck, to your shoulders, to your arms, to your hands, then to your chest, to your abdomen, to your pelvis, to your legs, to your calves, to your feet. And this takes, about a minute and a half to 2 minutes to do, and it is incredibly valuable. It can be repeated. If after that time you're still not feeling relaxed, it's something that can be repeated as often as is needed. And then using soothing sounds like noises or stories. So especially if you are a person who ruminates on things, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you are thinking through something, or if you tend to lay in bed and as soon as you put your head on the pillow, you immediately start trying to solve all the problems of the world, you're going to want to use something that's going to distract your brain enough to let it relax. So having a noise machine, some people really like ocean noises or rain noises. And then they have various apps and platforms and other things that you can set without actually having to, you can set it and not look at your phone anymore. So you're not spending time on a screen, because again, that's really important to not spend time on the screen, that will play a story for you, right? So there's some really great apps out there that will play a sleep story for you. There's another technique that I read about from a neurologist that is recommending that you play in your mind 10 seconds of a song without words. So as any classical song, any theme song, I tend to do the Jurassic Park theme song because sometimes in the middle of the night or when I'm trying to go to sleep, that's apparently the theme song that pops to my head. And then you count down from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and then in your mind you play another 10 seconds of the theme song. and then you switch back to counting. And this switching back and forth between, counting down and playing classical music in your head, or just any music without words, is actually enough to trigger both your right and your left brain that it's time to go to sleep. So I highly recommend trying that one. If you can't sleep, if you wake up and you are tossing and turning and you've tried the countdowns and the music, I recommend trying to play another story, writing down what it is that you're worried about so that you can set it aside and it doesn't have to stay in your brain. But if you've been tossing and turning, you can't sleep, after 20 minutes, don't keep tossing and turning. Get up, move to the couch. Go lay down on the couch and start the bedtime routine over again. Let your body know that it's time to go back to sleep, but don't lie in bed for an hour or 2 hours, because it's only going to make it worse. And then the bed itself gets associated with that restlessness. So after about 20 minutes, get up, stretch, and go to a new place. Write down what you have to write down and move on. Writing the ideas is really key for a number of reasons. One, sometimes when we go to sleep, if you've been to some of the science of learning classes, you know that our brains actually do work for us that we're not conscious of. And sometimes the ideas that come to us in the middle of the night are actually really valuable, and sometimes they're gibberish. So having, a pad of paper and pencil by the bedside is going to be incredibly, incredibly valuable. You're going to want to try to avoid lighting your phone up to take a note down. So having old school pencil, paper, pen and paper next to your bed is going to be really, really valuable, because when you open your phone up, that brightness, even if it's on the dimming setting, a lot of our smartphones have dimming settings, are going to be, it's going to be a trigger to your brain to wake up more. So you're going to avoid the phone at all costs. So what about you? What helps you sleep? And what helps you go back to sleep? Everyone has different tools and techniques, and so now is the time for us to share in the chat box. What is it that works for you? What is it that you know that is part of your routine? So some people feel like they have to keep their hands and their feet warm. So I know people who wear mittens to bed or wear socks to bed, especially in colder climates, Some people have, really specific routines that they do before they go to bed. So what about you? What is yours? What is your routine? Share in the chat box and let us know.